Hi guys, so in this video we're gonna continue working on our ranged enemy and we're gonna do his gun. So we're gonna start by accessing the ranged enemy folder, and then we should just increase this one a little bit, and then we're gonna access the ranged enemy gun, the one we did in the last video. We open the full blueprint editor, and here what we're gonna do, of course it is a child of the base gun class. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first of all we're gonna override the function fireshot, the fireshot function. I'm gonna just do some adjustment to my screen. So we're gonna override the fireshot function. So in this function, when we fire a shot, first of all we're gonna create a particle effect in the barrel of the gun, the barrel hole of the gun. We're gonna create a particle effect like a charge gun. Then we fire our projectile. When the projectile is spawned, the particle effect is gonna disappear. So in the fireshot function, of course, before working on the fireshot, we're gonna just declare a new function which is gonna spawn the projectile. So function spawn projectile. Back to the fireshot function. First of all, we're gonna see if our current ammo is superior than 0, which means we have ammo in the gun. So I should do a branch now that I already dragged the line, the wire. Then I'm gonna get the current ammo variable. I'm gonna compare it against 0, and wire it to the branch. If it is true, we have ammo, we're gonna continue processing. If it is false, we're not gonna do we're gonna do nothing. So I'm gonna delete this line for now. Then I'm gonna do a spawn emitter to spawn the particle effect. We're gonna spawn an emitter attached to a component. We're gonna simply attach it to the skeletal mesh component of our gun. This skeletal mesh, the provided FP gun skeletal mesh of the first person template. So back to the fireshot, we get it, we wire it. Guys, we have for the particle effect, there is a provided pack by Epic Games, which is called Infinity Blades Effects. It contains a lot of cool particle effects. So what we should do, we should get this pack and add it to our project. You just search for it in the marketplace, in the Epic Games, in the Unreal Engine marketplace. Where is it? Just search for Infinity you select this one. So it contains a lot of cool particle effects. What you have to do, I already downloaded, so I will go to my library. In the vault section containing the downloaded assets, here I'm gonna search for it. Here it is. I'm gonna click on add to project. I'm gonna select my project in the list, which is zombies and shooters T. Here it is, and then I'm gonna click on add to project. I will wait for it to be added to my project. So guys, I will be back to you in a second once it is added to my project. So guys, I already have the Infinity Blade effects added to my project now. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna just access a particle effect, use a particle effect in this pack for our particle effect, for our emitter. So we search for aura circle, fire O2, P aura circle fire O2, this particle effect. We're gonna browse for it in the content browser and open it to see it. So we're gonna use this particle effect. Of course, we're gonna reduce its size and use it for our gun. Back to the ranged enemy gun. Here I'm gonna drag again. I don't have to drag it actually. So for the location and rotation of our particle effect, we're gonna just use the location and rotation of the socket muzzle in the FP gun skeletal mesh, this one, this socket. Ranged enemy gun again. Socket, get socket, transform. We're gonna indicate the muzzle socket. For the transform space, we're gonna use the RTS component space. And here I'm gonna split this transform variable to show the location and rotation of the socket. I'm gonna wire the location to the location and the rotation to the rotation. For the scale, we're gonna reduce the scale of the particle effect because it's gonna be very big, so we're gonna reduce it to 5%. Just 5% for all the dimensions. Next, we don't need to use the parent fireshot function, so I'm gonna delete it. Next, we're gonna get a reference to this particle effect, promote to variable. I'll just name it maybe particle effect. That's it. Because we're gonna use this reference to deactivate the particle effect later on. After having spawned our particle effect, what we're gonna do, we're gonna set a timer. It's a charge gun, so it needs a timer, then it fires its projectile. So set timer by function name. We're gonna use the function name spawn projectile. So I'm gonna use this function name spawn projectile. Gonna use this function. For the time, we're gonna promote it to a variable to tune it up as we wish. So here I'm gonna rename the variable to charge charge time. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna give a default value to the charge time, which is gonna be 1.5 seconds. And then we're gonna get the timer handle to control our timer, so to deactivate our timer later on. So promote variable, and we're gonna call it charge timer simply. Charge timer handle. That's it. After having set our timer, so it's gonna spawn the projectile after this time. After having spawned the projectile, it's gonna deactivate the particle effect. So maybe we should put deactivate particle effect in the spawn projectile function. It's better. So gonna drag this to the side a little bit to make more room for my graph. So before I'm gonna remove this one, this unused one. So before we even spawn the emitter, we should decrease the current ammo variable. So I'm gonna do a duplication to this node, Control W, and here I'm gonna use decrement int, and we decrement it by 1 before moving on. Particle effect, set timer by function, spawn, set charge timer handle, and that's it. So next we're gonna start working on our spawn projectile function. This spawn projectile function, for now we're gonna just use the provided first-person projectile of Epic Games, the template one. So here in spawn projectile, we're gonna do spawn actor from a class. We're gonna search for projectile, the first-person projectile. Then for our spawning point, we're gonna add an arrow to our ranged enemy gun to indicate the spawning location and rotation of the projectile. So here to the gun skeletal mesh, I'm gonna add an arrow component. Then I'm gonna adjust its position. I'm gonna adjust it in position like that. What's he doing? Something happened. Gonna do Control Z to disable what I have done, and then I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees. Should be like that. Translate it and deactivate the snap translation and smoothly put it in place. It should be like that. That's it. This is where the projectile is gonna spawn. It should be okay. Gonna compile it. Spawn transform, yes, because we didn't fully completed the spawn actor from class. So here for the spawn transform, we're gonna get this arrow component, get its transform, get component, get transform, no, get world transform, this function split the transform. We're only concerned by the location and rotation, so here I'm gonna split this one also for the newly created actor, location to location and rotation to rotation. And then what we're gonna do, after having spawned the first person projectile, we're gonna set its initial speed and max speed. So we're gonna get the projectile movement component from this projectile. Get projectile, rather I should get projectile. So I'm gonna load this first person projectile. Here it is. I'm gonna remove all the things that I don't need for now. Ranged enemy, I'm gonna remove it. First person character also. Message log. I only need behavior 3, yes, I don't need it. I only need these ones. So this is the first person projectile, the provided one. It has a projectile movement component. So back to the ranged enemy gun, we got this projectile movement component. Now we're gonna set the initial speed and the max speed. So set initial speed of the projectile and set max speed. So we're gonna wire them together. Like that. Add a reroute node to clear up things a little bit. Initial speed, we're gonna we're inside the ranged enemy gun. Yes, initial speed, we're gonna use the bullet speed of the gun inherited from the parent class. This one, we're gonna use this one, the bullet speed. So for the max and initial speed, we're gonna use the data of the bullet speed. So we're gonna use the bullet speed variable of the parent class. So get bullet speed. This is the bullet speed of the gun. I'm gonna duplicate it with Ctrl W and wire it there. Everything is alright. For bullet speed now we're gonna set a default value of 3000 for the ranged enemy gun. And then after having spawned our projectile with it in flying mode, what we're gonna do, we're gonna deactivate the timer of the charge timer. We're gonna check for clear and invalidate timer by handle. We're gonna reset, we're gonna clear our timer, and then we're gonna deactivate our particle effect now that we spawned the projectile. Deactivate the particle effect. That's it. Compile. So that should be it for the spawn projectile function. It is called by the fire or shot function. Now we're gonna work on our event graph. In the event graph, there we're gonna override the start shooting event and the stop shooting event of the parent class. So override, it's rather called start firing, and the other event stop firing. These two events. We right click on the start firing event add call to parent function to call the parent start firing, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna call fire shot. When we start firing, we fire a shot. When we stop firing, we call the parent stop firing. It sets the variable is firing of the gun, and then we're gonna clear the timer. The timer we clear it, invalidate timer by handle, and we deactivate the particle effect. So our AI, our ranged enemy character, so when he wishes to use his gun to fire, he calls the start firing event of his gun. When he wishes, he changes his mind and he's not firing, he calls stop firing, which is gonna cancel the timer, the charge of his gun, and deactivate the particle effect. So now that should be it for the ranged enemy gun. We completed working on this gun. Now we're gonna test it inside the level. So I'm gonna set it in position, in a good position inside the level. I'm gonna set it right there. So where is it? Inside the ranged enemy folder. I'm gonna just close all these folder 3. Gonna drag the ranged enemy inside the ranged enemy gun inside the level. Should be better to use translation snapping. I like to use a translation snapping as much as possible inside the level. So I'm gonna rotate it to face the other way. So put it down a little bit, and that's it. To fire this gun for testing purposes, we're gonna just access our level blueprint, open level blueprint, and there what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna associate the keyboard key G for firing and H for cancelling the firing. So I'm gonna type keyboard and search for G, and then I'm gonna search for H. So guys, this is just for testing purposes, just to test the gun to see how it functions. When we press the key G in the keyboard, we're gonna do get all, I'm gonna just uppercase, so get all actors of class. We have only one actor of the class ranged enemy gun in the level, so we're gonna indicate ranged enemy gun. For our just one actor table, we're gonna do for each. Effectively just gonna do one loop because we only have one result. Array element we call start firing on it. For the loop body, and that's it. We get all this, we duplicate it, we move it down to the letter H. So this is for cancelling the fire. So here, rather than calling start firing, we're gonna call stop firing, and that's it. Stop firing, and that's it. Compile, save, and then back to the level. I'm gonna make a little bit of room to see the level, to see more the level, and hit play. Hit play to just test it out. Here we have our gun, our created ranged enemy gun for our AI. I'm gonna hit the letter G, and nothing happens. I know why. Because we should set a default value for the current ammo. We don't have ammo. It's that simple. Current ammo, we're gonna give it a huge number of ammo, 100,000 ammo, and then we compile and we save, and then back to our level. So where is it? I'm gonna hit the letter G. You see the problem, we have the problem of the alignment of the particle effect. It's facing to the sky. You see? We should correct this. So how we correct this? We go to the particle effect first of all. In this particle effect inside cascade, we have all these emitters composing the particle effect. We're only concerned with, for each emitter, we're only concerned with the required module. So in this required module, we should check use local space, and we should check also kill on deactivate. Because when we deactivate the particle effect, if this is not checked, it's gonna fade away slowly. If this is checked, it's gonna disappear instantly. So we check both of them. Use local space for orientation, so it doesn't face upward, it faces in the direction of the gun, and kill on deactivate to deactivate instantly. We do the same operation for each required module of each emitter. We do them all, guys, to have a proper working particle effect for the purpose of this game. And the last one, the last emitter, to finish things up with this particle effect. This is the first level blueprint. And now what we should do also to have a proper orientation of the particle effect, we just go to the FP gun, we go to this skeletal meshes socket muzzle, and we rotate it for its Z axis to face in the direction of the gun. Right now the Z axis is facing upward, as it should be. We should rotate it for it to face in the direction of the gun. So we do E to rotate it, and we just rotate it 90 degree, and that's it. That's all we have to do. Now we should have a proper working particle effect. I'm gonna drag my character starting point for it from the start, for it to face the gun. I'm gonna hit play to see. Now I'm gonna hit G to fire my gun, and the bullet is the projectile is spawned. If I hit G and then hit H, it's gonna cancel immediately. G, H, cancelling the firing. G, H, I cancelled. G, and the projectile is fired. The projectile drops after a certain distance, so what we should do is disable the gravity in its projectile movement component. So SK2 to exit the gameplay, and in the first person projectile, in the projectile movement component, the gravity scale we set it to 0, so there is no gravity for this projectile. And we compile and we save all, and that should be it. I'm gonna hit play to see now how it works. So we have our gun, we hit G, and we see our projectile going as it have to do. Of course, later on, we're gonna have our projectile explode on impact, so we're not gonna change the bouncing property of the first person projectile. It should just explode when it hits something.